All right, good evening, guys. Ken of Tortoise Capital Nightly Strategy Podcast for March 28th, 2023. I will get the daily report out right after the report today. I had trouble with one of the spreadsheets, um, but I'm fixing it behind the scenes. An amazing session in the creativity check-in today. I'll make that recording available. There's no substitute for doing the work, but you're going to be able to see guys doing the work, and you're going to be able to learn from them. So we got a new cool cohort coming up in April, and that'll put me at my limit of what I can manage during the week. So that'll be the last chance to get on board that train until the current cohorts finish up, which will probably be like October, November. So it's just a fact of manageable time. This next cohort will be we'll start in April. Strongly encourage you to think about it. So we'll start with the swing portfolio. This is all 30-minute charts. That's that hybrid between intraday and swing. We'll start with Alcoa. So yesterday we started with a COTA 2 with a standard risk. And so today it gave back a little bit and closed pretty well. So we're about 0.5 in hand, and I like the shape of that risk. So my risk is still down here, my exit, but I like Alcoa at about plus 0.5. Caterpillar, 2 days ago we initiated the SSC with standard risk. It closed well today, right here, and it's holding about plus 1.5. So I'm going to move that stop tomorrow to lock in sort of that minimum gain just below today's low. So I'm locking in this much win right now. So I like how that's getting started on day 2 of that trade. Cliff also started yesterday with a COTA 2 standard risk. That thing had a gap up and then closed off and then finished with one last run here. So we're actually at plus 2 on that one. So I want to preserve. So I'm going to move that stop, and I probably want to lock in like 1R. So just below this turn in the RL10. So I'm going to lock in that plus 1. And then I'm looking to add, like if it can break above 18 tomorrow, then that feels like I want to add a second position and aim for that 5-day high up around here. So I'm ready to exploit Cliff tomorrow. So again, the stop on Cliff, I'm going to nudge right up underneath there to preserve that win. All the metals did pretty well today. CVS, I initiated. So we had this really good short, and then the retracement took it to about a 50% retracement, and it hit a wall right here where you would expect, and then gave me the PSAR flip. So I just played the short with a standard risk, and it behaved very well on the downside. I thought hard about taking the plus 2R here, but I actually feel that the primary trend is down, so there's a good chance it can come visit this support level here for another 2R tomorrow. So I decided to keep that one overnight. That would be one where I wouldn't be surprised to see a gap down on the downside in the same way it has behaved that way here. After a sharp sell-off, it gapped down and then sold off another day. So I'm hoping to see a gap down here and a sell-off that tests this level. So I wanted to keep that in play. If it gaps down, this would be in a place where I would add a intraday on 3-minute and really try to exploit that move with markets money in hand. Devon Energy, yesterday we initiated the COTA 2 entry here, It really closed well yesterday. Today continued, and then as it came back, I just took the PSAR exit in the usual way right here. So there's my risk. So that's about 1, 2, 3. So that's a +3. Let's make bank and ring the bell. It stalled where you would expect it to stall at the top of that. Energy's been on a rebound, so I wasn't ready to just initiate a short at the close. But at the first sign of weakness tomorrow, like below, say, 48.50, I would be ready to get short tactically with a target down here at 46. And if it just gives us a 50% retracement, we could have this much risk and then have 2 units of reward. And that makes this a nice intraday turbo trade tomorrow in Devon. Electronic Arts, nothing. We've had nothing on this for 3 days. That was the 2-day chop. It gapped down, but then didn't do much. So I'm going to treat that as a zero state tomorrow and be ready to go long or short. I would rather go short on a breakdown because I think this is where it wants to be. As if that means anything. It doesn't. Here's a quick lesson that came up in today's coaching for the creativity guys. And that is, when do you trust your rules versus when do you trust your gut? Do you trust your gut or do you trust your rules? What's your default position? Here's my position. Think about your position. Decide if you had to choose between your gut or your rules, which way do you vote when chips are on the line? For me, it comes down to what kind of a decision do I have to make? If I'm thinking about an entry, I trust my rules. Why? Because my rules are designed to make me feel bad. Because when I feel bad about entering, then I know most other people would feel bad about entering and are afraid to enter, so I'm just going to enter when they're afraid. And then I'm going to immediately feel a 1-hour loss emotionally, and so I get that out of the way, and now all I have to do is get out with better than a 1-hour loss. And now think about it. If I get in right here and I experience a 1-hour loss, but my average actual loss is minus 0.4, what I really did was experienced a plus 0.6 win compared to what I had just emotionally felt. So that feels like a win. And if my average win is 0.6, think about what that means. I'm aiming for 2, and I settle on average for 0.6. That's only 1/3. I'm only capturing 1/3 of a reasonable 2-hour framed move. And if I only have a 50-50 chance on that, like a coin flip, think about that. Do you want a 50-50 coin flip that wins 0.6 and loses 0.4? If you were at Las Vegas, how many times a day would you play that? All day, every day, all of them. Because that's a 3-2 payoff on a fair coin flip. The expectancy for that is astonishing. So, simply that mathematics says if my rules are designed to make me feel bad, then when I'm making an entry, I trust my rules. But when I'm making an exit, I say to myself, do I trust my instinct and my gut, or do I trust the rules to get out? I trust my gut. And why? Because 10 million years of evolution have given me a brain and a sensory nervous system that is finely tuned towards fear and risk management and danger avoidance. My rules are simply some kind of statistical treatment of a data set that may or may not be applicable to this, but if I lose more than I'm ready to lose, but I followed my rules, does that make me feel good? Absolutely not. So I would rather be outside the trade wishing I was in, meaning I exited too early because of my gut. I would rather be outside the trade wishing I was in than inside the trade wishing I was out. So if you ask me, do I follow my gut or follow my rules, I tell you it comes down to the decision that I'm about to make. If it's an entry, I follow my rules ruthlessly because I'm not emotionally committed to it yet. And I'm gonna experience a 1 hour loss, but I know how to feel that and endure that like a thick-skinned rhino. But if it's an exit, then I trust my gut, and then I sort it out later because maybe this is the time that my rules didn't account for. I don't know. Maybe I was trading with too large a size than I could really accommodate, and it's better to get out and get back to the zero state. But if I'm that afraid of the trade, I get out. Okay, it wasn't for me. I thought I could handle it. I couldn't. I would rather preserve my emotional resilience. That was the other lesson that we talked about today, just while we're here, and that is, what do we mean by capital? Capital are the tools and resources that you have that will lead you to create value in your trading. So it's time, money, attention span, tools, skill, resilience, all of that. Preserve capital, not just the money, but your attention span. Preserve your time by making sure that you're spending it on things that matter the most. Luis asked me, what am I seeing in the first 3 stocks reviewed tonight that made me trust my instinct and keep them on? I wasn't afraid of the pattern at all. None whatsoever. I've seen that pattern so many times, like on Alcoa. I've already experienced what could happen if this thing just sells off tomorrow and goes down to here and kicks that out. I've already experienced that loss, and this is sort of a routine Kata 2 getting ready to go. So if I got out here today, I'd get right back in there tomorrow, and I'd still use this as a risk. So no big deal. Standard risk. I've already experienced that loss, and the probability that it gaps down out of here is small, and I'm ready to take that risk. And it's already 3 days into that move, and it has to get to here to be normal. So I can hold this for another couple days to let it unfold. Easy. No risk at all. Caterpillar. Same thing, only better. It made a better move. Here was the Kata 2 entry, but I was already in on the SSC. I've already felt that loss. But now what I'm going to do is I realize I've got a little more gain on this. That's why I'm moving my stop from here to there so that I can lock in a little piece. And now the worst thing that happens to me, except for a amazing gap down, would be I only make this much money. That's good. Happy. 0.6. So that's a routine overnight. It's early in the industrial and the metals. The whole sectors are looking good. And the market wasn't bad today. And Cliff, same thing. This was a Kata 2 entry. Old reliable. It's already made a couple of those. And it closed pretty well. So I can move this stop up into here. Lock in that gain. And this should really go to get back to here. If it doesn't, I can get out in this region for a minor win. No fear. None. My gut doesn't worry about that at all. Why? Because I've seen that pattern 10,000 times. All right, so Chevron, Devon, let's see, EA, still looking at that thing. We were waiting to see a breakdown. The gap down, but then it didn't do much, and there was no compelling reason to follow it. But if it fails tomorrow, I'm on it. Pardon me. Emerging markets. This was a gap up and morning hook, so I bought it. Standard risk, it closed pretty well. My risk is right here. Routine. Ethereum was a gift today. It had a horrible sell-off from 8.6 down to 7.5. That's minus 12%. And then there was a gap up today above the PSAR and kept going. Hold my nose. I'm uncomfortable, so I just buy it. I've already felt that loss. This is a COTA 2 on the larger time frame, and then it did this. This was an opportunity for a second position, but I was going to get out of it anyway. And then it really ran up nice, and I said, you know what? That's a pretty, as volatile as this thing has been and with the gappiness in it, and I get a chance to bank 2R on 1 unit of risk, check. It's already 2/3 of the way up the stack, and there's only that little piece. But if it keeps going tomorrow, I could very easily get into that, and then if it breaks above 8.6, it's off to the races. Hooray. Mexico, beauty. You will recall my nervousness in the service of taking the COTA 2 a couple days ago, last Thursday, and it gave an then this worked nice. Today it gapped up again and kept going. Bought it, and then it stabilized and is holding here. So I've got 2 positions in on a 1, 2, 3, 4R on this one and 1R on that one. So I'm holding 5, and I'm not going to lose money on that trade. And if this really works, bingo tomorrow, and it's well positioned among all the indexes to make the strongest move. Brazil, this was much like Mexico, was a nice big gap up. Now remember, yesterday I exited that one because I couldn't take the heat, so I didn't get the favorable gap. So that's the price of following my gut. I don't care. I know how to get back in. How do I get back in? Oh, there was a clear gap up and continued to go, and it moved a risk box off the low. Hold my nose and buy it, and it closed pretty well, and I'm holding 1.5. I'll give it another day, and if it breaks above the 10-day high, which is over here, that thing's off to the races. So I've got a cushion of markets money that reduces my fear. Intel. This is a compound COTA 2. It wants to do that. It was coming through the dragon, standard risk, ready to break out, and then tech has been the leader, and Intel's been good, and if it breaks above 29.75, I'll add a second position, and then it's going to come back to the 30-day high, which is also the 10-day high. I love that position. IP, International Paper. I missed this one yesterday. Talked about it yesterday. You know, that would have been the stop and reverse at the PSAR and the SSC, and delivered this. I missed it. Today, I could not get into the zero state about it, so I'm going to just study that, treat that as the zero state, or the yellow zone, ready to play intraday to those levels, ready to add a second position on a swing if it gets below or above that as a breakout on a very tight risk. So IP is in play for me tomorrow. IYR, same thing. This is exactly the same as IP. It is narrowed into this little zero state. I'm ready to break in either direction tomorrow. There's a strong move in either direction on a very tiny little risk, but no position overnight. Regional banks, this one felt like it was failing these last 2 days. It bounced a 50% move off the bottom back towards the top, and yesterday it gapped up and sold off, and today it continued the fail. So on the PSAR flip, I put on the standard risk box. I'm short, and it closed right here, so I'm basically flat. This is just a directional bet on KRE for tomorrow. It's had 2 days indicating down. This is an easy target to the downside. There's no good news in the banks, so hold my nose and suck it up. Marijuana. Yesterday we initiated the SSC with a standard risk, and it closed well today, and we're holding 2R. So my move is to move the risk from here to lock in today's low, and then that is going to be the cushion. I hope there's no adverse gap so that I can at least lock in this piece, and now I'm giving it this much wiggle room. And I'd be looking to add if it breaks above today's high, with the idea that it's going to come back to here, and then I would look to be exiting if it stalls at that level. I'm not going to wait around a long time for that. Clean energy, PBW. Yesterday, we initiated the RLXD on a COTA 2, standard risk. Closed right here, so we're about 0.5 in hand. So it's still trying to grow, so I just leave my risk on there. I've already experienced the psychological loss of a -1R, so all my fear is gone. I've already processed that. So it's got 0.5 in hand, and let's see it go. If it gets above today's high, it could get all the way back up into here. I'm not going to add a position because that's such a small gain. I'll just play it with 1 unit of risk and then try to manage it. Now, if it gets above here, which is this key support level or resistance level, I would look to add a second position up in here. But for right now, just 1 position. We got a little cushion in hand. Rivian, this has been a tough one, but today the big rollover in, notice the RL30 rolling over. This is kind of a late owl entry on a collapsing dragon today. Standard risk, closed poorly. We're holding about +1. If this breaks below 1280, I'm adding a second position because the bottom's going to fall out, and it could easily violate the 30-day and 10-day low tomorrow at 1260. So I like that one as a opportunity on the short side. Treasuries was a short yesterday on that little rollover. Held my nose, standard risk. It closed here, and then today it just kind of monkeyed around and stabilized. So we're holding +2. So I need to move my stop from here down to about 104.75 so that I can lock in this little piece of gain right there. So I'm going to move my stop to here, and I'd like to see it fail below the 10-day low. That would be good. Tesla. This was yesterday we exited. This was a long, and we missed the opportunity to get out here and to get out here, and we finally just preserved some capital here. Disgusting. And then it sold off today, and now I'm taking the same trade as I did yesterday or 2 days ago, and that is long at the PSAR flip and standard risk, treating that as a big giant COTA 2. Although it's really, because of this lower low, this is really more of an SSC bet than anything. But I've got a belief in technology as the leader based on evidence, and Tesla is in position. Lastly, U.S. Steel. Here was a COTA 2. We started yesterday. Standard risk. Yesterday it closed well. Today it maintained. It's in good shape. But I'm going to make sure I get my risk out on the second day and get my stop just below today's low so that I can lock in that amount of gain. And then if it breaks above this price level, I could look to add if it gets above 26. So the metals all performed pretty well today as a group. Shifting to the sniper trade of the day. Whoops, sorry. Grab the wrong box. Come back here. Alrighty. So this was yesterday's close. Here was the gap up. It ran all the way up to the top, came all the way back down to the bottom in the OR3. That establishes this as the OR3. The next bar broke out, so we're long. standard risk. And as you can see, that thing paid off within 2 bars. So this, in fact, on this first bar up to here, you wouldn't be crazy if you just went ahead and moved your risk box to there, or your risk to there, and locked in, you know, locked in that little piece already after the very first bar. And then when you see, you know, that little double bottom and continuing, sure, you could raise your stop and put it right here now. And that would let you lock in, you know, this much and call that yours. And on this much risk, that's already at 1.5. And now as it starts breaking out, we're getting close to 2R in hand. And my brother would say, why didn't you automatically 2R battle drill? I said, I don't know. So I waited for the R10 wiggle and continuation. Notice how it had an opportunity to fail. You know, these rising lows and a little triangle, so it's coming into what's it going to do. It had an opportunity to fail this way, but it didn't. It broke out and kept going. So, and that's 3R in hand. So 3R battle drill, and up it goes. We're not losing money on that trade, and that'll pay for the whole week. Standard exit. So on the first trade, earned 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.2 on the first one. Second one earned 1.2, and so 5.4 slippage, 5R. It rolls over, orderly exit, PSAR flip, K2. It fails immediately, so just take it as it leaves the river for minus 0.5. COTA 2 entry, standard risk, standard failure, another minus 0.5. SSC, micro gain, call it a scratch. That was enough for me. It's like starting to chip away. You know, if it was going to do this, it had 3 chances to do that, and it didn't. So that's enough. Done. And leave out of here with 5 minus 1, and that pays for commissions. So 4R. Check or hold. All right, let's look at the traders. Oh, we started exploring the use of the artificial intelligence chatbot to take automatic notes of our creativity check-ins. It lets you do the pilot, or hit the highlights, and it produces the annotated timeline and speed links. Holy mackerel, is that any good? All right, let's take a look at the traders. Whoops, take a look at the traders. All right, here's Tim. So here's the OR3. That would have paid off. This is an SSC. Perfect exit. That could be a stop and reverse, so you'd have gotten paid a little bit more. This is a great patient move, and you got paid, and then the re-entry should have been here right away and keep going. Micro loss and got paid. So that minus 0.3, I think you had an opportunity with a couple improvements to get up around 2R on that one. So I am liking you're cutting the losses soon. We got to look at the re-entry. Hesitating because of the previous dragon horns. Just, it didn't even get through the VWAP and the dragon, and the dragon slope is up and the PSAR has flipped. You got to take that. That is a vote to the upside.
Hey, Ken, can I say something there real quick?
Those aren't dragon horns, by the way, until they get outside of Z3. And they're not anywhere near Z3. Let's see. Peter. Let's see. A reasonable continuation pattern, but really, when you see that long of a move, you say to yourself, at all of these start points, you should be asking, how much gas is in the tank? And the answer would be, how long is the average PSAR season? What's the average length of your PSAR trends minus one standard deviation? That's sort of the minimum reasonable expectation, right? So this one has already kind of had one leg, two legs, and you're hoping for the third leg. So this one could have been scratched right as here. But I do love the stop and reverse. And I like the re-entry. This was an aggressive second position, but a great exit. So +1. Woj on Devon. Micro gain, quick scratch. There was a re-entry here and here that were available, and a re-entry here that was available. Tesla, you got paid in the usual way. I'd have been probably on that one, and then I will hope I could get that one on a break of this compound support level. That's one to study, especially it's on the downside of a descending VWAP. It wants to be short. Micro paid twice and avoided all the chop. That's pretty good shooting. You got the mover. I think you gave way back. You gave back way too much. You gave back like 60% of the open gain. So that could have been taken at the edge of the dragon, skin of the dragon, or at the PSAR flip. And then here's a Kata 2 that was available. Still, +1 and 1.4. 2.8 for the day. That's a 14-hour wick. Keep it up. Arch with just a monster move here. There's the Z3 pinch. There was a breakout. Here's a Kata 2 entry. There's the 2R battle drill. Where's my second position and my third position and a nice exit? Doesn't matter. Bring home 4. He was using a combination of 5-minute and 15-minute chart and looking at the regression lines as a way to start framing the potential for a breakout. And that's probably the breakout that he on the 15-minute chart, and that made that really attractive. And there's his long PSAR move, and then he stays out of the chop. Now, if this breaks below this level, down we go. If it breaks above this level, up we go. There's your yellow zone for tomorrow. Nice work. All right, that's everything I got for today. I'm going to send the daily report out. I would study your continuations. Oh, I got one from my brother. Stand by. Hold on. Sneaking one in on me here. And yeah, so this is an interesting one. Now the scale on this makes it really hard to see, but this is exactly kind of what you want, is benign neglect. You have ETHE, which is a long-only ETF that tracks Ethereum, and these bars are all 9 days. And here's that long slide from 40 all the way down to 5. And then it's had 9 days of not failing further and starting the breakout. So he gets his entry here. And the potential for this is quite good. So he's in at 693, and it closed at what was it say, like 8 something? Do you remember what the closing price was on it?
828. 828.
Yeah, and then he points out, what you should notice is the how the switch from winter to the spring made all of this less painful in the start of a growing season, which is beginning to manifest. I think it closed above 8 today, so you're already, like if you entered around 7 and it's above 8, you're already at plus 15% in hand. So that one has a real turnaround. That's a long-term growth position in my view. I'm trying to remember what Ethereum closed at today. Yeah, 828. So if you entered it, that's actually even better than 15%. So, like if I'm looking at this on the 9-day, if I may. So his entry on the 9-day PSAR flip break at about 693 I think was his entry, and it closed today at 828. It's made a $1.28 on 7 6. That's 1/6. That's 16.5% already. Good shooting, Tex. I don't want to say anything, but reverse of the R10.
Yeah, I know.
Breakout from the 9-day doji.
I'm working on it.
Standard wrist box move off the low. There was an entry at about 520 to 820. That's $3 on 520. That's about a 60% gain. Just saying. All you need is the simplified sniper. If you look at that rascal on the 3-day, that gets you an entry around 6.2. This little bump off the low still gets you in around 5.25. And 6.2 to 8.2 is a 33% gain. And there's a COTA 2 entry available at about 7.5, because this is where it turned. That's the PSAR flip. So you can get an entry here or here, and you're pretty happy with the price right there. And if it breaks above the 30-day high, the fanboys will erupt. It's very close to that test for the fanboys to take it higher. And the news this time that wasn't available back there is that Microsoft is building a Ethereum wallet for Bing. Yeah, Microsoft power behind Ethereum. And Microsoft, they're pretty savvy. I'll tell you, the best thing that ever happened to them was getting rid of Gates, the pedophile. Yeah. No, I didn't have my ears on, Bill. Go ahead. Did you want to talk?
No, I was just saying, when you look at that chart of mine, Um, that's the newest development with Trader X.
Yeah.
So, and this kind of led into the other Ethereum trade, or the other uh forex trade that we saw.
Yep.
When he got out,
Yeah.
see how this is rising and just about ready to break out of the 31 Bollinger Band. Oh, next
Yep.
one up in the MACD. When that goes,
Yeah.
it
It's
typically takes a lot of inertia to make it come to reverse down. So don't
yeah.
look for it to do that at any time.
Yeah. See, this moved here, the one that takes it down, makes the Bollinger Band very wide, and then it fails to fail. And so
Mm-hmm.
this whole thing is compressing into calmitude. And now here it's breaking out of the new normal. That's an acorn.
Yep. It's looking to go above that in the Williams percent R.
Yeah. That's an
If it breaks
acorn.
if it yeah.
Yeah, so in the spirit of oak trees, they create little acorns,
Right.
and as a squirrel you gather those, and you can eat some acorns, but the ones you don't eat get scattered and become more oak trees, so you get a lot more acorns. You can eat acorns and you can plant acorns and you can harvest them. So be a squirrel.
I was gonna say you might say you can eat a lot of pine nuts because there's a lot of pine cones,
Yeah,
but there's only so many acorns.
right.
So don't eat the acorns, but eat the pine
Plant
nuts.
them. Well, here's what happened. No, here's what happens though. When a squirrel eats the acorns,
Yeah.
the seeds that actually grow the tree are indigestible.
Mm.
So the squirrels eat the meat of the nut that is the nutrients, and then they crap it all out, and that gives them an even richer fertilizer for the actual indigestible oak tree seeds. I mean, oak trees aren't playing around. They're pretty smart.
Yep.
If you eat the seed, you're not even eating the seed. That's the same like civet cats and coffee. I'm just trying to think of the first guy that thought that was a good idea. That was a guy that needed a cup of coffee and said, I was going to use these beans, but the civet cat ate them all and crapped them out. Well, if we just wash them off, I wonder how that would. We could probably still make coffee, and it turns out, wow, that was an improvement. But that's what desperation for coffee will do to you. The spirit of innovation and creativity
Yep.
is founded in desperation. All right, man. Hey,
I'll
I sent you a couple articles.
yeah.
The last two articles that were constructed,
Yes.
I think you could package and send them to Steve Gordon. Say, is that about what you're looking for in terms
Yep.
of tone and style? And then
Yep.
I have a few other that I'm already building out, and I'll be done with that pretty soon.
Okay.
All right,
Just
brother.
I want to hit this one last time.
Okay.
When you guys are thinking, should I get out? Start looking at the MACD and the Williams, because I think a lot of times we get too focused on what price action is and just what's happening up here, and we don't really see the longer term
Yeah,
what's happening with the
the
MACD
underlying tide.
and the Williams. If those
It's
things are going up, and especially when he got out, um,
yeah,
both of those things were still moving out, and there was a ton of room between price and the PSAR. If you got if you
yeah,
got a really long wait, give it a second. Let it really start to feel.
yeah,
If it's close to the PSAR, if price is close to the PSAR, okay, got no issue. But if you're more than an MMRB or more away, just draw the box.
yeah.
You got 5 minutes. Draw the box at the
And
MMRB.
just remember my
Yeah,
discussion earlier on trusting your gut for
yeah,
exits. When all else fails, trust your gut because it got you this far. You can always get back
yep,
in with rules when you're in the zero state. But
yep,
when do you trust your gut? When do you trust your rules? It matters whether your decision is whether you're getting in or getting out. Trust your
yep,
rules to get in, trust your gut to get out. Or not get out, or to stay a little longer. If you can take the heat, go ahead and stay in.
yeah. If you
No,
can't take
just
the heat, get out.
measure your risk, handle it. All right, that's everything we got, guys. Catch you tomorrow.
Good night.